Is it for your screen?
No, the song. The song is where people are concerned about.
Yes, so we split hairs over who sang the song.
Yes.
The winner won.
That means you lost. Let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do the front pages before we finish up with what we have to do. Shall we? Anyone?
Okay, so on the front page of the Daily Graphic, danger, earthquake looms in Accra, geological survey warns, national policy summit opens in Takoradi, 1 killed, 3 injured in Bole chieftaincy, disputes ADB NIB merger cancelled. On the back page of the Daily Graphic is Sutrare farmers express concern over alleged water contamination, and police intercept large quantity of suspected cannabis in the Volta region.
Now, the Daily Statesman is reporting this morning the curious case of John Mahama's politics and Bole chieftaincy clashes leave 2 dead and reinvest free SHS savings. This is Minister for Tertiary Education, Professor Yanka, urging parents to plan for higher education and less face-to-face AIDS fight against corruption. This is the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana speaking.
On the front page of the Graphic Business, the Ghana Stock Exchange bleeds over bank closures as it fails 4.7 billion capital test, prioritize aviation among national development agenda, and scale up investments to seed growers. That's according to the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana.
The New Crusading Guide is reporting this morning trouble brews in Bole, and that particular issue is still on the front page of almost all the other papers. And listen to this one because you should be interested in it. It sounds very familiar, right? I've still not been paid my ex gratia 10 years after leaving office. Ex-President Kufuor. You've heard before?
Yes. I believe he told me that.
Yes. I want to believe so too.
Anyway.
On the front page of the Today, the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund denies signing deal with Jospon. That Bole chieftaincy story also on the front page of the Today newspaper. And PPP wades into RTI bill.
Now, MTTD records 12,396 road accidents. I'll be giving more details of that. And now we will pass RTI bill. Listen. In 2019, this is the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana speaking. Okay, now let me move to
the RTI bill matter.
Yeah, we will deal with that matter too.
We will deal with it on the show.
Yes.
Let's move on.
Aggrieved customers of Gold Coast Fund Management besiege company to demand deposits. And those are the stories that Ghanaian Times have presented this morning.
On the front page of the Daily Guide, New Regions report out. Nana commissions $40 million Sunda diaper factory. There's a story which is very disturbing about the 4 British girls that were sexually assaulted at Kokobite. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that. And NDC didn't pay my ex gratia. That story as well on the front page of the Daily Guide.
The Finder is reporting this morning discord over RTI bill. Parliament leadership provides conflicting assurances. Coalitions calls for resumption of consideration. And I don't remember whether cocoa in tea fertilizer was tested. This is a witness in the popular Opuni case before the courts of the Republic of Ghana. But the Interior Ministry has imposed some curfew on the residents of Bole.
And finally, from me on the front page of the Chronicle, Mr. Bokwanta has done a story about John Ajekum Kufuor, the gentle giant at 80. No vehicles for Adam police as armed robbers strike. And that's about it for the front, the headlines.
Yes, but there's an update on the earthquake, isn't there?
Yes. So the Ghana Geological Survey Authority has said that the tremor, which we experienced, is 4.0 on the Richter scale. They have also said that we should not take for granted the incidences that are happening. There have been 2 this year. There was one on March 24th and then also the one on the 9th of December. There's a warning that these tremors could be an indication of a bigger one. And the director, Dr. Daniel Barma, has called on stakeholders to start to put things in place to make sure that if something of this magnitude, something happens, we'll be fine. So he's saying that people should get some engineering services sorted, have engineers come and have a look at your house if you're in an earthquake-prone area to make sure that it can stand. If not, he's actually advising that people begin to move away from areas that have been designated as earthquake-prone. Professor Frimpong Boateng, the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, has also been speaking, and And he is urging Ghanaians, please do not build in such areas. And if you have built, perhaps this is the time to move. And he also made a comment that as much as we're trusting God to take care of us, we also have to make very wise decisions when it comes to taking care of ourselves. So that's the update on the earthquake situation.
But Raymond, it's not really limited to those in Wager, is it?
Yes, of course. I mean, the studies as far back as 1936 suggest that the entirety of the capital, especially the areas around the coast, so from Christianborg Castle through the soon to be Marine Drive Place, straight down to McCarthy Hill, also to the other side. In fact, as far as a bridge to, so all of those hill areas around Aquapim are also very, very serious places that you're likely to get into trouble if anything of that sort happens anytime soon.
So what the experts tell us, and we'll be speaking with Nicholas Opoku on the show, he's a seismologist with the Geological Survey Authority. What he has been saying earlier is that the danger with the Wager Ridge is the developments that has gone on there, and the fact that excavation and building has gone on there. As a result, there's a heightened sense of danger there. And the bigger question we'll be asking, whilst we are looking at our preparedness to avert any such disaster, we're speaking to NADMO, well, of course, the authorities in charge of emergency responses in the country, and we'll be speaking to an architect to find out, what is the real problem? Is it that people are adamant? Is it that we don't have enough housing in the country? Is it too expensive? And that's why people often choose to build in places like that, because it's a very built up area. So if you have a contribution, maybe where you are is waterlogged, or you know of a place like that, or flood prone, why do you choose to be at a place like that? Or why do people choose to be at a place like that? Send in your comments on 0244 340 437. Anymore, I'm staying with you because four British girls, have been assaulted.
Yes, so this is a story that was carried by the Daily Mail and the Sun in the UK, and we've had Maxwell Agbagba follow it up, and he's been able to bring us a little bit of information. So 4 teenage British girls and their teacher have been assaulted at gunpoint at Akokobite guest house over the weekend. So what happened was that these students came, they were working with a West African charity to come and do some charity work and also to explore and see the country. A security guard was shot. So a man tried to enter the compound. He shot the security guard. He came into the room. There were about 10 of them. 4 of them with their teacher were in one room. He came into the room with a rifle, held them at gunpoint, and sexually assaulted them. The children and the teacher have been sent back to the UK. Maxwell has been speaking. He says it's been difficult to get in touch with the police officials to speak on the incident, but they have said that the investigation has started in full swing. The British High Commission are also not wanting to speak on the incident, but they also have said that they've provided support to several British nationals following an incident in Accra. The Daily Guide is reporting that the Assistant Commissioner of Police, ACP David Eklu, has said that yes, something of this sort has happened, and the investigations are going on. He is calling for residents and members of the general public in that area to provide them with some information. If you saw anything, if you know anything about it, do get in touch with the police so that this crime can be solved, because it really is, it's terrible.
So the general issue of security, Raymond, is something we have to look at. But when it tends to sort of color the perception of foreigners about the country, then we have a problem, because you think about the business that we can get not just from the UK but from anyone at all coming into the country.
1 second before Raymond comes in, the Daily Mail, when they reported it, they said the ending statement was that Ghana is a country where there's a lot of civil unrest and anything can happen at any time, and we're also under the constant threat of terrorist attacks. So that's how
3 things. Number 1, this country we are sitting in now is a country that has civil unrest.
Yes.
Number 2, anything can happen at any time.
Yes, at any time.
And number
3, there's the constant threat of terror attack.
Let's move on. No, let's move on.
Okay,
let's move on. Raymond.
Now, agri customers of Gold Coast Fund Management, they yesterday besieged the company's office to demand their money. This is not the first time that they've done so. This is because they say there was an agreement to pay them half of the amount of money that you have there. They say they're no longer interested in even taking their interest. They should just give them the original amount of money they brought to the institution. And they went to the group Indian companies in Accra to demand payment of this investment. At 3 p.m., Abigail Ano, who wrote for Graphic, indicates that when she was there, she saw how the angry customers were insulting management of the institution and fuming. In fact, she spoke to one customer who says she's been chasing her money since September and they've been refusing to make the payment required to her. This is also been worried about why they are insisting that she doesn't have an emergency. She says the mother is not well, and that she's not going to wait till the mother dies and she will bring death certificate before they will believe that there's really an emergency. There's another gentleman who's son's supposed to go to a tertiary institution. He's seeking to pay school fees. The guy is not on scholarship, and they are refusing to give the money to the gentleman in this case. So there are some other people who are also there. There's a report from the same venue about a woman who came there, who's been struggling to get her money, ended up collapsing, had to be resuscitated on the ground there, and many others who were very angry at the point of virtually pouncing on the officials there. But the bank had some response. The general manager in charge of investor relations at the company, Benjamin Kofi Afre, he told the Graphic in the Ghanaian Times in an interview that they are unable to do the payments because of two things. The first one, bad investment, and two, regulatory changes that the firm is going through. You know, the SEC gave them some directives as to when to operate, but the customers are saying that they know that the SEC directive expires December 31st. So you should be able to pay me ahead of that particular time so that I can use it for the things I said I wanted to use my money for. But the tussle is still ongoing. We've been told by the Bank of Ghana that there are 566 of these financial institutions in other forms in the country. These financial institutions, out of that, 39% are either folded up or in distress conditions. And that is where they are seeking to fix the problem in tandem with SEC and the other institutions involved. We hope that they get to the bottom of this as early as possible.
We hope so too, especially when the confidence of Ghanaians in the local stake in the banking sector is involved. Anyone, coming back to you, a Ghanaian doctor has saved a life.
Yes, and a very good morning to Chief Superintendent Dr. Samuel Ofori. He's a doctor in question in this story. And it's really just a feel-good story. So they were coming from Amsterdam to Ghana. The plane had already been grounded for about 3 hours at Schiphol Airport because one passenger, that's another passenger, had been sick and had been bleeding. So they had to wait for a while, and then they get on the flight. And then this lady, they're not sure... that story is reporting that she may have eaten something, and so she was in a lot of pain, abdominal pain, and she collapsed on the flight. So the Ghanaian doctor, Chief Superintendent Dr. Samuel Ofori, along with a German doctor on the flight, Professor Manfred Spitzners, intervened and were able to help her, and so they landed back in Accra safely, and all is well with them. So that's just a really feel good story. And we would love to have Dr. Samuel Ofori on the show at some point.
So you're inviting him officially?
Yes, I am inviting him officially.
I'm one up ahead of you because I've spoken to him.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, and we will be having Dr. Ofori on the show. We really want to hear what happened exactly at the Schiphol Airport. And,
yes.
What it means. I'm also very curious about, Christmas, a lot of people travel.
Yes,
and so it will be interesting to know how we can keep ourselves safe. So that if you end up at your Schiphol, whether you're flying or you're on a bus or you're on a train going somewhere, and unfortunately there's no Dr. Samuel Ofori there, what happens?
What can you do? But staying with health, you talked about this earlier with Daryl when you were doing the business news about the report study by the School of Medical Sciences that has released a report that 74% of women are dissatisfied with labor services. Now 223 mothers were questioned within the last 5 years about how they feel when they have to go into the hospital to have babies. And a lot of them had issues with accessibility to bathrooms and also accessibility to ambulances. And so they were worried about the fact that when they go into labor, will they be able to get to the hospital on time, also because of road distance as well. Some of the concerns that came up were also treatment by nurses and birth attendants, the stress of labor management, follow-up care, community with midwives when they do go home, the support that they get in the community with the babies and with themselves. It also brought up the question of C-section or natural birth and the choices that women were making. The study showed that women who had C-sections were much more satisfied with the health care that they received. They stayed in the hospital for longer, and so they felt that they had much more support in terms of that. Which also raises the question, though, because surgery, the time for the healing of surgery is much longer than it is for when you have a normal birth. C-section is about 6 weeks, and a normal birth in about 2-3 days, you're kind of up and ready to go.
You know what's curious about this for me, Raymond? That women are more satisfied when they stay longer in the hospital after the C-section,
Yeah.
but the general impression about the quality of healthcare delivery they received is that they are not satisfied with it.
I think
don't
it's
know.
also really just the feeling of security and safety of knowing that you're in the hospital, you have support, you can see a nurse, you can see a doctor. If there's anything wrong, there's no accessibility issue, you don't have to travel, you don't have to call an ambulance. So I think it's, as much as it may not be necessarily the delivery of healthcare at the hospital, the safety in knowing that you are at a place where all these things may be accessible.
And then of course we mean cesarean section.
Yes, cesarean section.
Yes, by or cesarean section, but by when we say C-section. So we are asking you this question actually about if you're satisfied with the quality of healthcare service delivery in the country. We'll be joined by private doctors, experts, those who did this research themselves will be joining us, so that we will be discussing this in depth and see how safe we all are when we go to the hospital. Raymond.
Now, MTT has been recording an increase in the number of road accidents. We understand that it moved to 12,396 from the beginning of this year to November, compared to 11,709. I mean, the crashes resulted in 2,118 Ghanaians dying. This is way higher than the number of people who died in 2011, and the people who were actually knocked down, pedestrians were knocked down, were 2,918. In fact, 12,318 people have suffered various degrees of injuries on our roads within the space, and all of this is coming from the Commissioner of Police, Christian Tetayonu, who is now the Director General of the MTTD, the Motor Traffic and Transport Department. This brings into sharp focus one single thing. The President, after the death of Ebony, formed a committee of ministers to make sure that there's a plan to deal with road accidents and make sure that we don't have these things happening consistently. Where is the report of the committee? What has the committee done so far? What has it been implementing, so you can mark and see the results coming out of this?
My concern, and Raymond, it's as if you were sitting in my head, because this is exactly the comment I wanted to make. And this committee was formed somewhere in the second quarter of the year. So the question is, how come we still have 2,100 people dying, higher than the figure we had last year, and in sync with the average of the past 5 years, which shows that over 2,000 die from road accidents every single year. Now, again, from the National Road Safety Commission. So what is the effectiveness of the committee that was formed? What exactly was done? What is the explanation? Before the year ends, we must have this conversation, because we are entering Christmas.
There's something that we will not have before the year ends. That's the RTI bill. This is according to the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana. The Vice President is saying that, I mean, in all reasonability, that's not a very wonderful timing for it to go in this particular case. By next year, 2019, by hook or crook, we are going to get the RTI. It sounds like something you've heard before, right?
The postponement.
Yes,
This is the third postponement.
Very good. Yeah, very good.
This year.
Yes, and the promise was that we were still going to get it for you this year. The understanding, okay, so they still have some provisions to deal with. We have so many amendments that they are supposed to go through. Some say that in this current form, the RTI doesn't look like the best of bills you want to pass into law and make it a useless law. So the MPs want to go through that process. But many don't trust that the members of Ghana's parliament, some of them are dedicated to making sure that they pass this all-important bill.
I'll give you a typical example. During the time of the discussion of the appropriation, and remember, that was one of the deadlines given, that it will be passed alongside with the appropriations, which is approval of the budgets, really. Now, one day, Parliament adjourned suddenly at around 1 p.m. And the parliamentary correspondents are saying, no, usually
you have more time.
You adjourn around 3 or 4 p.m.
Yeah.
And what was left to be discussed was the RTI bill. Now, that weekend, Parliament was extended and asked to come and sit on a Saturday because they still needed to work on the appropriations.
Yeah.
But when it came to the RTI bill, we adjourned on a weekday. So if you are going to ask me about commitment of Parliament, I present that as an example. And I ask you this thing to make up your mind. We may sound frustrated or passionate about this thing, but really, the Vice President was speaking at a program where Shraj had made a point where this RTI bill is something we need, is a key piece of legislature for the fight against corruption. And this is something that we cannot look. Journalists like Manasseh Azuri Awuni and average Ghanaians like you and I would need this so that we can track exactly where your taxpayers' money goes. So, I mean, it's something that we are looking at very keenly, and we are trusting that our members of parliament will show some commitments. Let's round off, Raymond, with Mr. Kufuor.
Yes, the former president, in an interview with your very good self at age 80, is still. Kufuor left office in 2009. he still says that he's not been paid his ex gratia. The ex gratia, because he was an Article 71 office holder, the prestigious few in this country who are put in a very categorized group, the vice president, the president, heads of various institutions, they are given end of service benefits. We have always discussed why this has been a problematic one. Remember that when he was leaving, there were discussions whether or not he wanted 2 houses, whether he wanted some other cars, had some money, 5 million, and that the Mills administration said they were going to review that. They did set a committee to review that. There was a committee to review the Mills committee's review. There was another committee to review even John Dramani Mohammed's own. And the very last one we had was the Professor Bwando's report in this particular case. All of them have not led to a former president who left office over a decade ago still being paid. And the confusion here is that the idea of having end of service benefit is to make sure that the people are protected when they get out of office, so they don't feel like they have to steal when they are in office. So if you are not giving them, if you are sending a signal that they don't, and I don't know, former President Mills is dead, I don't know if the family has received anything in this particular case.
Interesting. We can say the same about Dr. Hilal Imani and the members of parliament in the Third Republic who have been demanding their ex gratia. They have also not been paid. But let me begin the online news review, Raymond, with the first story of which Mr. Kufuor's office has released. It's captioned on myjournalline.com. Kufuor fights sensationalized reportage on ex gratia comment. I'll go straight to the quote in that statement. Which sort of seeks to clarify this. He says the interviewer, Daniel Dazi, specifically asked whether Mr. Kufuor's ex gratia has been paid. Mr. Kufuor, answered that upon assuming office in January 2009, the late President John Atta Mills declared that the Chinuhezi report was not approved, so it could not be used to pay Kufuor's ex gratia, Mr. Kufuor's ex gratia. However, at the subsequent vetting of the then new ministers in Parliament, Honorable Alban Bagbin confirmed that the report had indeed been approved by Parliament. Now, despite that fact, 2 NDC administrations from 2009 to 2017 did not pay the ex gratia due former President Kufuor. Now, there's an important part of this that I need to add. As soon as he said he's not been paid, I asked him, even by the current government, he said he's not pushed for it with the current government. So he sort of sought to exonerate, if I can say, the current government in that statement. Because he said, "Oh, I have not pushed for it," in answering that question. So maybe that's what they would like to add. It's not really clear in the section of.
But you don't push for what is deservingly yours, what is of law yours.
When you're paid, you're paid. And the president has mentioned that you will pay him anyway. Trust God, build well. Anyone brought up that story earlier? It's also on myjournalline.com. Adumonline.com says Mahama Kufuor Rawlings all eligible to contest for presidents. Dr. Drosai speaking there. 2 nuns have admitted embezzling cash for Vegas gambling trips. That's disturbing on so many levels. The BBC.com has that. So we'll go for the BBC News itself in a minute. But the online news review is brought to you by Zenith Bank in your best interest and Goyle Good Energy. If you buy fuel at Goyle, make sure that you collect a scratch card whenever you buy 80 Ghana cedis or more worth of that. You dial star 161 star 4645 hash. You follow the steps, and you could be like Josh Crying of Ofanko, who's received 1,000 cedis worth of fuel on his Go card for the month of November and a weekend hotel stay for 2. Many others have been rewarded with 1,000 cedis worth of fuel for accruing the highest points. 720 people have actually been rewarded in all. This promo runs till January 2019. It's called the Goyle Ifie promo. Goyle Good Energy, Goyle Yanara Yedia. This festive season, Zenith Bank is offering you the opportunity to become part of its big, wonderful family. Visit any Zenith Bank branch nationwide during the first 2 weeks in December and let our able team assist you choose from an array of products and services that definitely cater to your unique banking needs. So tell a friend to tell a friend. Whether you are an individual, an SME, or a corporate entity, at Zenith Bank, there's something for everyone. And of course, as we all say, Zenith Bank works in your best interest. We're going to go straight to the BBC News at 7 after this. But remember, we are having 2 key conversations today. The first is we are asking about the quality of healthcare service delivery that you receive. 74% of women have said that they are not satisfied with their quality. But what do you think? Tell us about it. Also, we are asking about housing. We are looking at the danger that people put themselves in when they build in certain areas. Why do they make those choices? You tell us in your contributions. We're going for the BBC News at 7 now.
You're listening to the BBC.